everybody. I'm John Pynakke with the Mojave Valley Daily News, and this is Valley Voices. Today it's brought to you by Tri-State AC Hero. They would like to thank their customers for naming them Best Heating and Air Conditioning Company in the Mojave Valley Daily News Best of 3 years in a row. So today, last week we had talked with several of the write-in candidates for the CRUHSD High School Governing Board, and today we have the only one that's on the ballot, Carey.
Hi. Hi.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So Carey will be on the ballot, and we'll go over that in a minute, but let's start by kind of hearing your history. Tell us about when you got here and family and that whole shit.
All right. So, almost born and raised here. I've been here a little over 33 years. My parents came from Lake Tahoe City. My dad was actually hired to open up the Colorado Bell. And so I went to Mountain View Elementary School, which is now the Settling Center. Went to Bullhead Junior High, and then finished up at Mojave High School. And then I went to Mojave Community College and pursued my associates in business, and made my way to UNLV to finish up my bachelor's in marketing and communications. So after that, I started at a little TV station called TV2, dabbled in some marketing and started networking, finding my place in the community as a professional business person. Found my way at MCC Foundation, where I started giving back to my alma mater. Spent a lot of time on the board focusing on the Christmas Gala and the Pumpkin Fest and giving back to the MCC Foundation. And then I dabbled in the ERC, which is the Economic Recovery Committee. I sat on the Park and Recs Commission Board for the city for 2 years. Then I started to be a Rotarian, which has been a huge passion of mine, that then brought me into an Interact Advisor role at Mojave High School. I have 2 children, one that just graduated from Mojave last year as student body president and is now off at U of A pursuing his PPEL, which is Philosophy, Politics, Economics, and Law. Good luck saying that 3 times fast. And then I have a 6-year-old daughter. So very passionate about our community, very passionate about education, and I look forward to giving back in any way that I can.
I think that your passion for education is really reflected in Caleb, your son that graduated.
Thank you.
He was a star student and a very involved member of the community. So
Very.
I'm glad to see that your passion for the community is carried over to him, to
Yes.
the things that he does.
Me too.
So let's talk a little bit about the ballots, because there's a little bit of confusion. I know on social media there's been a lot of confusion about how the ballot is put together and what voters are to do. So your name is on it. You can't just assume automatically that you're going to get in.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Still got to fill in the little dot next to it.
Yes, you still have to. So when you go to vote, there's going to be the school board will have its own line item, and then there's my name with the dot. So I would still appreciate your vote. And then there is also the opportunity to do what they call a write-in candidacy, because there are 2 seats up this election for the Colorado River Union High School District.
Right. So the seats that are being replaced is Carey Burgess.
Correct.
And the one that you were already filling as
Yes.
a member of the board.
Yes.
And then we talked a little bit last week about Pat Young's spot. Pat Young's spot is not on this ballot.
Correct, because he resigned after signatures were already due.
Right. So that will be after this board is seated. Then the board will sit down and look at any candidates at that point.
Yes.
To fill that last spot. So the people that we talked to last week, Artie, Patricia Anchondo, and Ashley Garrich, they're available for write-in. I guess their names are going to be there as well, so you can make sure you copy them down right. And
They have a board that's designated to all write-in candidates. So when you walk into any polling location, there's a wall that will have every write-in candidate's name. So you can go to that wall and write it down, because the important part is getting their name spelled correctly.
Right.
For a
so
write-in.
anybody that has a mail-in ballot that already filled it out doesn't have those correct spellings. Remember, every one of those write-in candidates has to have at least 193 signatures,
Yes.
which is what Carey had to have to get on the ballot. So it's kind of a difficult thing.
It is. It is.
All right. So let's talk about, let's jump, I'll save this one for last because that one's a little bit more difficult. But let's start with, you've been on the board now for what, about 3 months?
This is going to be my 4th meeting in November.
Okay. And there's been a lot of, I don't know, they say any publicity is good publicity. There's been a lot of
controversy.
Kind of sketchy, controversy
Just
is
use
good.
the
We'll
word.
use
Just throw it out there.
Criticism about you and your aggressiveness. Is that a good enough word?
The
to
words
use?
that have been used are assertive and bold.
Okay, well,
Which
those are
I
positive
take
words.
prideful. I own those
Absolutely.
words. I do.
Absolutely. I
Yes.
think that in the position that you're in, I think that assertive and bold is good. So if we can just clear up some of the misconceptions about what's been going on. There's been dialogue out there about Carey Faring is stirring the pot and causing problems and all this other stuff. Can you just kind of clear up what that means?
So it's complicated in the sense that when I turned in my signatures, I was all for going on the ballot, hopefully winning, and taking my seat in January. Didn't work out that way. Because it was an uncontested election at the time, I was asked to go ahead and take my seat early, which I did.
By the county school superintendent.
Yes, so Mike File. And so I did take the seat early in August, but I was very apprehensive only because we had some big votes coming up. August, which was my first meeting, was the reopening of the school amid COVID. And taking my seat for that very first meeting can be intimidating to anyone because that's an unprecedented vote. But I went ahead and I did it because I have a passion for the school. I want to make a difference, and not everything is going to be easy. So I went ahead and took the seat, and my very first meeting was a difficult vote that we had to decide, were we ready to reopen the schools? And it was a 2-2 vote. And I came down to the deciding vote of we were going to reopen on the 28th of August or September, and not the day that the other two had recommended. And that was just purely because we weren't ready to open safely as far as a plan. If I would have been presented with a plan that ensured the safety of the teachers, the students, and the parents, I would have been all for reopening. But I had to vote with the information in front of me, and the information in front of me just didn't give me enough safety to feel that I was doing the right thing by voting to open right then. So.
Right, but I think the big one that we've been hearing about is the whole delay on voting to approve the $500,000 increase on the line of credit.
So that was a tricky meeting. That was my second meeting. And we went into a workshop prior to, and it was alluded to us that there were some financial issues that came up. And during the workshop, it ended up being that some numbers were put in the wrong column, and we ended up being in a pretty big deficit, when the month prior to it was that we were actually in the positive. So it was a big bomb. And then we went into our open meeting, and we found on the consent agenda that there was a line of credit increase for $500,000. So I had voted to postpone the approval of the line of credit so that we could get clarification from our attorney that in fact we could be commingling funds to offset the expenditures at the field house with our M&O funds. So I just wanted the maintenance and operation funds. So I just wanted some clarity, and then it was brought up very swiftly in that meeting that I was holding up teachers' pay, which that hadn't even registered with me. So as soon as that was said to me, it offered up another situation, which was, why are we using a line of credit to pay our teachers' wages? That's a whole nother issue. So I needed clarification on quite a few things in order to vote appropriately. I was never looking to hold up teachers' pay. That's definitely not my intention. But as an elected official, when you vote for something, your name is on that vote. So if anything comes back on it, then it's those people that voted in favor or in opposition that have to answer for that. So I asked questions, and I didn't apologize for it. Caught some flack, but it was never a teacher pay situation. They were gonna get paid. I just needed a little bit of clarity.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about that, but first we have to do our commercial here in the middle. Tri-State AC Hero, our sponsor, has recently been named the best heating and air conditioning company by the readers of the Mojave Valley Daily News for the third straight year. With 24/7 emergency service offered, the family-owned business is here to help. Tri-State AC Hero strives to make sure that customers are always given options when it comes to replacing or repairing a unit. They're not looking to make a fast dollar, but instead provide trustworthy service and build loyal customer relationships, whether it's a residential, commercial, or refrigeration job. Right now, you can get $500 off a new install. They also have a $78 diagnostic fee, which will be waived if you choose to have the repairs done at the time of service during normal business hours. And I spoke with Rusty this morning, and that diagnostic of your heating system is one that they're being hammered with right now. So go and check it out and make sure your heater's ready for our coming winter. And remember, they always have a 10% discount to military, first responders, teachers, and senior citizens. So for repairs, new installations, or periodic preventative maintenance, call 928-444-4395 and give Tri-State AC Hero a try. See why they are named the best heating and air conditioning company. So that ended up delaying the vote for like 2 days. While you confirmed with it. And then they had a big to do at the Mojave Auditorium. Teachers came down there, heard what the real deal was on it, and it moved forward.
Yes.
So my question is, why is this such a big issue, getting information on the field house, information on the M&O budget, on the finances, all that stuff? It should be just available to the public, shouldn't it?
You would think it would be. And as a constituent of the community for many years, I have inquired about information. But it was never readily available to me. I couldn't just go down and get whatever I needed. It usually was jumping through hoops. You have to file a public information request. You have to wait. It wasn't really that easy. If you look at...
That was before you were on the board.
That was before I was on the board.
Right, because you went to, for at least the last year, I know, you've been going to all the board meetings.
Correct.
As a member of the public.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that was kind of one of my major platforms before I was appointed to the board was transparency. That word is thrown around all the time, but I think it's important to actually practice transparency instead of just saying we need transparency. Well, how do we need it? I think that any new board member or any constituent should have access to information, especially budget. So we should know where our money is going and how it's being spent. What I found as a board member is it's very convoluted, very complicated, and if you ask questions, sometimes there's a wall of there's only so far you can go into those questions. Right. And that's where this last board meeting you kind of saw, we put a lot of things into executive session that quite honestly, I just feel as a constituent and now as a board member, it should be public knowledge. If we're discussing budget issues that pertains to our district, then those budget issues should be readily available to be discussed in a public setting so that everybody can hear what we're talking about. And the same thing with anybody's scope of how they operate within the board, which is another contentious topic that's been brought up. I do ask a lot of questions. I have been kind of called out for asking too many questions, but what are too many questions when you find out that we're $103,000 in the hole for a building that's supposed to be self-sustained, and then we're also quite a few $1,000s in the hole from other situations that go into our funding as a district. So I didn't know that I was on a number of how many questions is appropriate to ask, but at our last meeting I was definitely called out for asking too many, which I do not apologize for. Good. Because I feel it's important that everybody has all the information, because if something's broken, we need to fix it. We can't wait 5 or 6 years down the road until it just balloons into this big issue. If we see an issue now, let's be proactive and not reactive and come up with a game plan to fix it.
Right, and I think what people need to understand out there is these people are representing you. So as somebody that lives in the valley, and my kids went to River Valley High School, you're representing me on that board. When I have questions, I would hope that you would be asking them. So,
Right.
So that's important. All right, we talked about transparency. Let's talk about should you get, I guess, elected to the board or re-elected to the board, however you want to put it. What are your goals for this next year?
Well, I think that we definitely need to focus on the budget heavily now. We need to visit contracts and health insurance and things of that sort. So I plan on diving, I already am kind of, but I plan on diving heavily into those things to see where we're spending our money and how. Because that all kind of funnels down, right? So dual enrollment, I'm super passionate about. I think that the bridge between River Valley and Mojave and MCC needs to be stronger, because associate's degrees, when you graduate, opens up so many doors financially. Like my son went off to U of A and he didn't have to take an English class or a math class because he got those taken care of through MCC while he was at Mojave. What I did find though doing that was it was very difficult to get certain classes, like his psychology class. If I wasn't as involved and as a helicopter parent as I am, it would have been more difficult. That needs to be more readily available for everyone, so that if they don't have the tools or the support at home, these kids can still gain access to these very important programs that MCC offers to help offset all of the costs that goes into once you transfer to a university.
Right.
So the counseling department is a very, very important role there. And I think that we can offer more support there, maybe more manpower there to help bridge that gap. And then also retention of teachers is super important. Dual enrollment teachers on campus would be so beneficial to us. And in order to do that, we have to be able to pay them, which there again goes back to our budget.
You've got a lot of challenges coming up.
I know.
You've got the Transwestern judgment.
Pipeline, yeah.
You've got the one for the tribe that's going to be coming up.
Yeah.
We're still
More
trying,
COVID stuff, probably.
Trying to get out of COVID. Yeah, you got a lot of challenges.
I do.
You
I do.
good?
But I think we're up for the challenge. I think as long as we keep asking the hard questions, as long as I'm not limited on the number of questions that I can ask per month, then we should be okay, because as long as we have, knowledge is power. So as long as I get to ask the questions and I get transparent answers, then we can then use those answers to help set us in a better path. Because this is an issue that if we don't get a hold of now, is just going to get worse. I mean, we have to get control of our budget.
There you go. We have to get control of our budget, so you need to get the right people in there to do that. I would encourage everyone to make sure you vote. I'm not going to tell you which way to vote. You can call me and I'll give you my recommendations. But you need to vote, and please go to the school board meetings and hear what's going on and make your voice heard. There's a public an
Call the
opportunity
public.
for people in the public to get up there and say the things that are bothering
So
them.
important
Yeah,
to use
they need
that
They need to
platform.
hear from you. She's representing you, and Dr. Cardone and the rest of the crew there are representing you. But if they don't know what your thoughts are, it's kind of hard for them to do that. So
Yes.
thank you, Carey.
You're welcome.
And thank you to our sponsor, Tri-State AC Hero. Call them today at 928-444-4395 and find out why they were voted Best Heating and Air Conditioning Company by the readers of the Mojave Valley Daily News for the third year in a row. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.